call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Tuesday, November 14, 2006 at 6:50 p.m. Councilman Porter is present, Councilwoman Garner, Vice Mayor Losner, Councilman Hodge, Councilwoman Bell. Item 2A is the October 24, 2006 minutes. The motion for approval?
So moved.
So moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Garner. Any questions on the October 24th minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2B is the corporate agreement and resolution, tab 2.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's a request of Council to approve staff to apply for a grant in conjunction with the Miami-Dade Neighborhood Housing Services Incorporation for the purpose of either constructing or rehabbing affordable workforce housing within the city. To qualify for this grant, you have to partner with public-private partnership, and the Dade Neighborhood Housing Services Inc. serves that purpose. We want to apply a grant. The grant comes from the Florida Housing Finance Corp, and we want to see if we're going to be able to participate in that through putting in a grant, trying to get an award.
I'll move that, Mayor.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Any questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Mr. Manager, do we have any history, or do we have a history with Miami-Dade Neighborhood Housing Services? Are they a county agency, or is this a private, not-for-profit?
Miami-Dade Housing Agency is affiliated with NeighborWorks, which is a national nonprofit that does affordable housing. They do housing. In fact, they are the entity that we chose to do the 8 houses here in Homestead, 4 in the Southwest, 4 in the Northwest, and are working with them. I think they've got their permits. They're not far from starting construction. They do affordable housing all over the county, are involved in housing counseling, housing training, helping people clean up credit reports and things like this to be able to get into housing, working with the county subsidy programs and those kinds of issues. So they're rather well known in the county. Their executive director, Arden Shank, was the person that the county chose when they were having their public meetings about the boondoggle, I guess you'd call it, at Miami-Dade Housing Authority to chair the meetings. I mean, they have the county has enough faith in them and their organization to put them up front as one of the people to head up some of those public meetings. They're well thought of in the county. And quite frankly, I think we're rather lucky to have them interested in coming down here. They are currently looking for a place to open a branch office in South Dade, and are looking around the Homestead area trying to find something right now because they recognize the need for their services. We've also talked to them about the possibility of operating our land trust once we get that started as the operating entity that actually operates that nonprofit. So, I mean, they're a substantial organization.
And this proposed agreement would be something that would come back to us and would probably have some real detail about what we're going to hold hands with them on and go out and apply for.
Actually, I believe that we would negotiate the agreement with Neighborhood Housing Services subject to the approval of the attorney, and then the city manager would be authorized to sign it. This is something that's related to this one grant, and quite frankly, we don't absolutely know we're going to submit the grant. We've still got a lot of issues that we're working on with this, but the application deadline is December the 15th. And so we've either got to move forward or not. And I mean, that's where we are.
So in theory, this grant application could be to go out and build 60 units to the acre or whatever, and you get to stand up here and say no. No. Anything like that's got to follow city code. And this would be for rehabilitation of existing housing.
our application won't be to go out and develop new housing developments or multifamily units where they don't now exist. And we're not going to get $5 million. I mean, we're not going to even apply for that.
Thank you.
The council likes, as soon as if and when we reach an agreement, I can get back with council. Thing is, I'd say at a meeting, but the deadline's the 15th. We may not have a scheduled meeting. I'd have to brief you individually.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Vassman. I don't think you have too much objection. It is rehabilitating existing housing that need a whole lot of work.
If it would make the council feel more comfortable in the second whereas clause, you might want to delete the words "or construct affordable workforce housing" and just leave it as funding to rehabilitate, because this is a little bit broader than that, if that makes you feel more comfortable with this.
That would help me.
The reason that's in there is you may get into rehabilitation and end up having to tear a house down. It's not our intention to go build a house where one now doesn't
Does that
exist.
include acquiring it, or is that the rehabilitation contemplate that this house needs help and this block needs help?
Yes, we're not looking to acquire. This is actually a pilot program, and what they're trying to do is come up with unique or innovative ways to do things. And so what we're going to be doing is looking to rehabilitate houses tied into our land trust, so that as we rehabilitate and make these forgivable loans, that if the loan ever gets paid back, that money would go to our land trust.
This be limited to the CRA area?
It probably is going to be limited to the CRA area, because they want to see a service area where you look like you get bigger bang for your buck. But we could do it citywide if that was the will of the council. What that would cost us in application points, I don't know. I mean, this is going to be very competitive when you're talking about these kinds of dollars. And again, we're not even sure that we've got, under this pilot program, everything that we need to do to be, quite frankly, fundable. I mean, we're competing with some big counties for this money. And you don't want to be chasing something that's not going to happen, spending a lot of money putting together applications that are going nowhere.
You through, Ms. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Ball?
Thank you. I absolutely think we need to go for this, because, we're going to go after dollars, and I like the idea of the project. Is there any possibility of, if the grant monies are received, of also doing additional infill housing in addition to the reconstruction or construction of homes? Also, I had asked about a year and a half ago of you to inquire as to creating some of the poor Northwest area, that otherwise known as Duplex City, into the CRA area. And if that was done and that were accomplished, and then you could incorporate some of the poor Northwest into the CRA area, then they would also qualify for those particular reconstruction dollars. Because that's a great need over there. That's always overlooked.
And I spoke to the people at the Tax Increment Finance Committee with the county about that very issue 2 weeks ago when we had a meeting with them. And they are willing to consider that, but they want us to get past the budget issue, which I think we'll get past tomorrow. They want us to get our new plan draft to them, which we will probably getting there inside the next couple of 3 weeks for them to do a cursory review on it. Then after that's done, they're willing to talk to us about expanding that area, but they want to have some solid plans, and they want to have a good exit strategy before they will discuss setting up a new CRA. And it wouldn't be an expansion of the current CRA. It would be a new and different CRA with a life and a tax increment of its own. They don't want us expanding our existing CRA to take that in and then be taking TIF money from the current areas trying to support a new area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant for Hazardous Substances and Resolution, tab 3.
I'll move it.
Moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Porter. Any question? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? another EPA brownfield assessment grant for petroleum contaminants and resolution, tab 4.
Move recommendation.
Moved by Mr. Porter. The second? Second by Councilwoman Bell. Both these grants are funding up to $200,000. Any comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 2E is the H&R paving and resolution, tab 5.
Mayor and Council, this is a recommendation to hire H&R Paving, improve our agreement with them to, the purpose of which is to install or repair sidewalks, curbs, gutters for the coming year. This is a piggyback off of Miami-Dade County contracts or bids, and the expenditures will be as needed for repairing.
I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Mr. Porter, second by Mr. Hodge. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 2F is the ordinance amending Chapter 1.5, adequate public facilities, providing for proportionate fair share mitigation program. Tab 6.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, you saw this as first reading. They've made some changes to it as we had indicated during the first council and first reading. We recommend approval of the ordinance as amended from the first reading. And we have, again, explanations here if you would like from Development Services. Mayor, I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Mr. Porter, is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Garner.
Yeah, second then.
Any questions?
Just for clarification purposes, I'm sorry.
This is the new improvement?
The version that's in your packet is the correct version. The version that the clerk is handing out shows you what the changes are highlighted from first reading. So it highlights the changes that were made for your review.
Okay. And let me ask a simple question. What is the minimum size building for construction that would have to come before, well, meet the standards or have to have a traffic study?
If you look at page 11, well, there are two standards that you're looking at here. One is for your general certificate of concurrency. And on page 11, under 1A application, that tells you the standard. So applications for projects containing over 10 or more dwelling units or 500 gross square feet of non-residential would have to apply for a certificate of concurrency.
Okay. And I knew that, but the reason okay, go ahead.
And then also on page 6, if you look at the top of page 6, depending on the amount of trips that a particular project generates for transportation, that gives you the impact radius that you have to review. So you'll see that schedule to follow as well.
All right.
So if you're less than 10 trips, you're out of the ambit of the... Okay.
Yeah. Well, my concern with this is if I'm a one-man show, I'm a little small mom and pop, and you know me, I have to look out for the little guy, and I go and lease a 600 square foot space, which probably only allows for 2 or 3 desks. I'm going to be required to get a traffic study. That may cost me several thousands of dollars for a space that I might be paying $1,500 a month for.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it depends to the use that you have for that whatever you're planning to use. If it's office, of course, if it's less than 9, you're going to have 2 or 3 desks. Most likely, you don't have more than 9 trips a day. So you don't require any traffic study for that. But if you are providing some kind of service in that 600 square feet, like fast food or something, of course, then you need to provide a traffic study.
Let's say, for example, I was about to use myself as an example, but I won't. Let's say I open a beauty shop, and I put 5 chairs in my beauty salon. You can do that within 600-700 square feet of space. And if I got 5 chairs, that means I know at least each individual is going to see at least 2 people a day. You get where I'm going. I think that number needs to be raised. And besides the fact, there's probably not too many 500 square foot commercial places. I mean, there's probably some, but not a whole lot. But I think that number should be somewhere in the 1,500, 2,000 range, because at that level, then you're talking about a business that is going to generate a higher growth of traffic and movement. Where even if you did the convenience store that sits on 4th Street, he'd probably see more than he'd probably have more than 10 people a day, but most of them are walking there because they live in the community, So I'm saying, for the small businessman that wants to start a business in the community, we want to. Our downtown, we're trying to revitalize and get individuals to come to downtown. We're about to put another $2,500, $3,000 of business startup capital in his expenses, and at the same time we're saying come downtown. So I think we need to use a number that is a little bit more flexible and feasible. It's not Target, it's not Lowe's. So I'm just trying to look out for the little guy. I think that number should be raised a little bit.
Do you want to answer?
Mr. Hodge, council members, I think if you have an existing building and you come and open a building, open a business, the traffic study is done and the project is already approved. So for the use of the building, you are not required to do a traffic study after the building is erected and has the COO. This is only for construction of the building.
And additionally, Councilman Hodge, it doesn't have to go with the square footage of what they are. It's with the number of the trips that building, the new development, is going to bring to the roadway. And it's at certain time of the day.
Okay, but why are we using such a little number then? Because who's going to build our city code don't even allow for you to build a 500 square foot commercial building, do it?
So
if it does, it shouldn't.
So all this is saying is that if you have 500 square feet or more, then you have to submit for a certificate of concurrency, and you have to submit a traffic study. And if there's capacity, this is only for a site plan or a T-plat.
Right.
And so if you submit for the concurrency compliance, you have to submit for concurrency compliance, and in doing so you have to submit a traffic study, and depending on the use, depending on the size, that will tell you how many trips it generates, and will tell you what your traffic impact analysis needs to include, and whether or not there is adequate capacity on the roadway or the levels of service are appropriate to approve that development. So what this does is, and your code pretty much already provides for this, this is just some cleanup language. What it does is it lets you know up front whether or not there are problems with the levels of service or problems with concurrency before they get in the process to P&Z or before they get to you for approval. So it's all done up front. So if you all want that number to increase, it's up to you. You can have the number increased. It's just a standard.
Yeah, it sounds good, but I'm still. I could think of 100 scenarios why this number is too small. For example, we have the Western Industrial area that have lots that probably wouldn't accommodate no more than a 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 square foot building, and I think that, I just think the numbers should be raised because, you know, if we're trying to encourage some form of business development for job creation, you know, we realize at this point it's not the big guys that comes in that have the money to be able to do it. A lot of times it's going to be a number of the little guys that's going to come in and create jobs for us. And with this number being so small, we're creating to me, it's creating a burden upon them to do that. I mean, we're gonna have more of the 1,500, 2,000 square foot guys to come and open a business much faster than you know, the 5,000 square foot warehouse guy. So my thing is, I do think the number is too small for us, requiring such a stringent amount of expense on him. And even I'm thinking also with the redevelopment that we have, even in some of our mixed use area, more specifically, you know, if I can be selfish, with the Southwest Master Plan, it's gonna, you know, and we're trying to redevelop, you know, a community. You're gonna have that issue as well, where you wanna create some form of economic impact. This actually hinders that growth where it's necessary. So I think that we need to take a, you know, really look at bumping that number up.
Mr. Bill, and then the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. We need to be very careful because concurrency is a mandate, and it's required from the state level down. We really don't have a lot of choice in this. And I know what you're saying, Councilman Hodge, but it's inclusive of trips plus size, branching out to the radius based on how many trips, not just based on size. So there is a little bit of a balance there. Not only that, if you have this particular warehouse and you're generating 49 trips and the person next to you is generating 100 trips, but then you said that it's not, then he's obligated to pick up the traffic and the concurrency for your site. And so I think that we need to be very careful here because this is absolutely a mandate, and we are being required to put in these types of provisions for concurrency so that we are alleviating these traffic burdens now, early on, or we're going to end up with the congestion that everybody loves to complain about. So I think that there is a bit of a balance worked in here, but I understand what you're saying. But if you look at 10 to 49 trips within a mile radius, I understand what you're saying, but I think we need to be very cautious here because of the mandate of concurrency. Yes.
If I might, just to also clarify for you, no matter what, even if the small guy only has 500, he's going to get reviewed. He's going to have to come in. He's going to have to do this. What this is saying is that when people come in and they have to submit for a certificate of concurrency, there's generally a pretty, traffic study does cost a little bit of money, whether or not your sewer and water calculations cost a little bit of money. And so what this is saying is that the applicant has to bear the cost of preparing that the city's not going to bear the burden of that cost. And so that's what that's saying right there. So if you want that number to be higher so that the city doesn't bear the cost, then we can change it. But no matter what, when you come in for a site plan, you're going to get reviewed for concurrency. You don't get it. There's only a few exemptions that are already in your ordinance that specify you get exempt. Other than that, everyone gets approved. This just says is that if you have over 500 square feet, then we're not going to bear the cost. The applicant has to bear the cost preparing that analysis to make the determination on whether or not there are adequate public facilities in a concurrency determination.
The Vice Mayor, and then back to you, Mr. Hodge.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I understand and I support the concept of what we're trying to do here, but thinking ahead to practical application.
Correct.
Let's say someone goes out and pays for all these studies and does what they need to do to get the certificate of concurrency for the construction of a professional office building. And they're off and running. They fill it with attorneys and accountants that don't have a lot of traffic. But then they move in a doctor's office. I think as an example of the change in use, I think we can all agree that a doctor's office within that zoning category, the professional office use, would generate far more trips than, say, an accountant's or an architect's office, or a series of those offices within the same square footage. So how do we, or are there safeguards built in the future when the use within the umbrella of approval changes to a much higher intensity of trips? I mean, do we have any safeguards there with the certificate of the occupational licenses? I don't think we do. I mean, we're going to approve and based on professional office development. But I think we see there's a wide disparity between trips generated between one actual use and another. So how do we address that? Because that goes to parking as well. I mean, doctor's office and dentist office are very intense, and other professional offices are not parking intense.
There are guidelines for different uses, and I don't know specifically if there is any for office versus, the doctor's office versus accountant. But when you file for office building, there is an average number of the trips per square footage for that use, and that's what is used, and is not specifically by his accounting office or his attorney's office. It's just, there are average numbers that we use.
So you're comfortable that within the standards of traffic counts that it's going to be, the averages will take care of themselves?
Could be specific.
Because we see it all over the place where you have these, particularly pediatricians and dentists that are very staff intensive. Parking's the major issue, but they do generate a lot of trips as well, as opposed to other office uses. So do we want it to get into making those distinctions, or is that not possible within traffic science?
Well, if they apply for office use, if they change their use, there is no way for us to go back and verify.
Well, that's right. As an investor, I don't know if I'm going to rent to architects and accountants or if I'm going to rent to doctors. Well, I guess you would, because you're going to have the water in every
parking lot spaces and
every exam room. But I think you see where I'm going is that does it go too far in some respects and not far enough in others to safeguard against the trip intensity? Just a question.
So it's based on averaging then?
Yeah, it's based on an average. IT book has a specific use, but usually that's not what the applicants or the traffic engineers, when they submit their application, tells you exactly the square footage for each office. They usually use the average for that general use.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Hodge.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think Steve may have explained it better than I can, and I think that's where a lot of the direction I was going. And looking at that average that you guys are using, why not use a higher square footage and adjust the trips so that it meet the guidelines, but the gentleman, or do it in a fashion where it's done based on the occupational licenses, and instead of create somewhat of a balance where there's an occupational license where you're looking at it in that format instead of just the construction form of it, because again, the numbers is just too small, and I know I'm fighting against the Goliath, but I'm telling you, the number's too small. The bottom line, the number's too small. It needs to be extended.
Let me respond to one thing, if you don't mind. The problem with using occupational licenses is that we're basically calculating concurrency on a very long-term basis. Somebody builds an office building today. Listen, because you're a technology guy, things change all the time. And so that when we grant a site plan approval, when we grant concurrency, we are granting it for an office building. We are granting it and basically we're trying to, the traffic engineers are trying to project traffic all the way into the future and trying to figure out and that office building could start off as a lawyer's office, and then when they figure out how to eliminate the lawyers, they'll turn into a computer center, but it'll be offices, and that's why you can't pin it down to occupational licenses, because somebody might enter for 1 year, like a lease, to lease that space for, let's say, a lawyer's office. Then they get rid of all the lawyers, and you bring in, you don't have to smile about that.
Smiling
and then they could bring in someone that would be a more, and so that's why when they use
Bring in the insurance guys.
We have less traffic now. It's done over the phone nowadays.
Well, that's why when they calculate for a particular use category, they have to use averages, because there's no way to, because otherwise you would have to adjust the traffic concurring every time.
I respect that. I respect it, really. I respect it.
Now,
I'm just saying, number one, I don't foresight someone building a 500 square foot commercial building, office. That's number one. It may be possible, but I just don't foresee that. I mean, yes. I mean, that's just, that's some of the stuff we're trying to get rid of. So I just don't foresee it. But what I'm saying is, a real number, in reality, a real number. Number one, no one's going to come and build a 500 square foot building and try and rent it out to 10 different people. I mean, it's 50. Anyway, you can do share one desk. I'm just saying that it's not, to me, it's not a real number, and and it needs to be adjusted, because there are some situations where there may be a 1,000 square foot building or a 1,500 square foot building that may make sense within a project, and I want to be somewhat pro than anti, and I understand the concept of the traffic studies, and we need to have that, but I look toward the Lowe's, the Targets, and those individuals to pay that cost, because they have the money to do so.
Mr. Hodge, council members, I really see your concern, and let us see, we work with the staff and the attorneys and see how much room we have to adjust this, be practical to implement. So when we come back for the second reading, we will highlight this change.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Porter?
One of the things that I think that, right now there is no plan to treat everyone fairly. I think that's been the issue on a lot of these developments. There's been no standardized form which allows everyone to be looked at under the same guidelines. Is that correct? That's what this whole fair share, well, there was a lot of issues in the past about, since the concurrency model came in, people have come up and said that, you're treating somebody separately, differently from someone else. And I know is that not, am I off base here?
Well, within the last 8 months that I have been here, really we have had the same format for everybody to use. However, we didn't have a concurrency issue prior to this year. So maybe we didn't implement the same requirement that we do have right now, because we didn't have any issues with level of services. We do have a certain requirement that we want every applicant follow the same application.
Well, again, okay, but the thing too is they're tied to the roads that have a level of service below an acceptable grade too, and that's why you want to know the proximity of every development in adjacent to the infrastructure that's already in a failure level. That's why the circular radiuses are there, so that we can see, although there may be a small development going in, maybe in the southwest community, but if you take that circular radius, there's no failures in the systems in that particular radius. The more intense those uses, it may end up getting to a Campbell Drive, which is at a failure status, or a Mallory, which is at a failure status. So, I know I think that's where we're trying to go with this, and to try to create a standard for everyone to look at. Because I thought that, in the past I had been under the impression there was a failure of kind of a standard. Everybody was feeling like, maybe it's been before 8 months, I don't know. But it felt like there was some confusion about development and how they were being looked at.
Well, and what this is doing is it had always been an adopted departmental policy, and they had guidelines given to each one of the developers in regards to what the traffic impact analysis needed to contain. And so what this is doing is this is codifying some of that so that it's in code, because before it was not in code.
Okay. Maybe that was the unclear portion that I was hearing, that it wasn't necessarily, no one could look at the book and say, well, it says here that it has to be ABC. So I knew there was some...
And so what this does is it helps clarify that, so that it's codified now.
Okay, the other issue was, when we go into these kinds of ordinances that are there's this much work involved and this much detail to it, if we find that as this thing progresses that we've made a minor mistake, what's the timeline to correct it? Does it go back through P&Z? Does it come directly to council?
There's an appeal process in, isn't it?
Well, the point I was trying to make, Mayor, let's just assume that we miss one sentence in here that, like Mr. Hodge was saying, we're 10 to 49. We find out the first, right out of the batch, we've got all these problems with this 10 to 49. If we decide that after some review, we find that becomes a problem, what does it take? An ordinance can be changed by the vote of council. What is the process before?
It would need to go to P&Z, and then it would need to come to you for first and second reading to amend the ordinance.
It does go back to P&Z, okay, and that process is 2 or 3 months.
No. For first and second reading for you all would be a month, P&Z, a month and a half, straight through.
2 to 3 months. So, again, just because if we craft this, or we assume that if this gets voted on in a favorable manner, and there is some mistake that's found, as we just found in the Southwest Master Plan, it goes through P&Z, and there is a process where we can modify and change this ordinance if we found that we made a mistake.
If you so choose, yes.
If we so choose. Okay. That answers my question, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's move on. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Mayor, I might have had some quick questions I wanted to address to your attorney. First, I noticed in this ordinance there's an expiration date of 12 months. That I assume is after the site plan tentative plat approval at the city council level. 12 months. I'm on page 12. 12, number 4.
Jen, probably need your name and address.
I'm sorry, Jen Helms, 47 North Chrome Avenue. The certificate of compliance shall expire within 1 year after the date of approval. Yes.
Once you get the certificate of concurrency, then you have 1 year their capacity is reserved for 1 year for you to move through the process to get site plan and T-plat approval. If within that 1 year you do not get site plan or T-plat approval, then the way it's drafted now, there's currently not a provision for an extension. So you would then lose your reservation, and you would have to come back through the process in line to get another certificate of concurrency.
Might I recommend to the council that forces of nature, hurricanes or whatnot, and or Durham may extend this 12-month period? So if you would possibly put an exception in there by the director to extend that if necessary. There's just 12 months between, from the way I read it, is a certificate of concurrency is originally adopted after the site plan is adopted for a final reading at the city council.
And the way this would work is that before you even get to apply for site plan, or before you even get to move through the process for site plan, you have to apply for a certificate of concurrency to make sure that you're okay on roads, water, sewer, parks, the whole laundry list. Once you get that certificate, that's your pass go. I get to then move through the process. So that certificate is valid for 1 year for you to move through the process. And what that does is it reserves that capacity for sewer, water, transportation, for you to move through the process. Now, mind you, you're moving through the process and there are other people coming behind you. So what the city will do is they'll reserve that capacity, but they're only going to do it for a limited amount of time. So if you don't move through the process in that amount of time, then you lose that capacity reservation, and then you then have to get back in line behind all the people who came behind you. So it's completely up to you all if you want to provide for an extension. It's not uncommon. Your site plans, for instance, are good for 1 year, and you allow for 2 6-month extensions. So if you all wanted to provide for an extension, because there are some times where you might get T-plat here, but then you have to go to the county and go through the county platting process, which can take some time. So
the only reason I recommend this is because, for example, the Homestead 50 went through. It took them 2 years to get through the site plan process because they work with the neighbors. I know that we have a project in right now that was put in back in August of 2005. They had code issues that just got resolved recently. So they are, if they were under this stipulation, they would be, their concurrency would be gone, and they've been in the pipeline since 2005. And we have another project that has been since February, running with the changing of the changing the city desires in the last 6 or 8 months have changed as to what they're requiring us based on what's come online. So I just recommend that if you put the hard work in as the applicant, that if you don't meet the 12-month period, that you are not automatically expired and have to come back, because you have put the hard work in.
Let me give Mr. Tahar.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want you to know that this really took very serious discussion between staff and our city attorney, and we talked about extensions and stuff like that. And I just want to make it very clear, the concurrency doesn't only apply to traffic. There's water and sewer, and water and sewer capacity is so limited. If we're going to allow 6 months and 6 months extension up to 2 years, you practically could run out of capacity for new people coming online who want to connect while trying to work with a project that's been on the pipeline for 2 years. Again, like James explained, if somebody's working on their concurrency and after 1 year they expire, all what they have to do is just to redo some of the stuff and apply for concurrency all over again. If everything is available, we give it to them. If not, then we cannot just hold people behind them, and deny them certificate of concurrency because this project is having certain difficulties. I mean, if it's a natural disaster, I don't know. If it's a natural disaster, I don't really have a problem because it's going to affect everybody. But for certain complications with a project to keep postponing it, I definitely see it a problem.
Mayor, if I might again, but from what I understand from your staff recently, specifically on traffic studies, as an example, that even though a certain project may go in February, if a project is coming online in April or it's to be submitted, we have been asked to revise our traffic study with their numbers. And I believe that in your monitoring, the city's also going to request that for us to revise our plan based on what is proposed or what has come online. So if we're revising our plan to show what is there or what is going to be there, and planning that we are going to be there also, those numbers should already be there. Is that correct? That are accounting for the amount of water, the amount of sewer, the amount of trips should be considered. It's going to be a revolving door, a complete revolving door if we go along this line.
Well, I kind of agree, Mike, that there should be some stipulations for circumstances beyond the applicant's control. Like I think someone mentioned earlier, if I've done everything I need to do and I'm waiting on the county or Durham or whomever, and it's held up for 6 months, a year, year and a half, at no fault of the applicant, why should we penalize them? Or, as we say, we may have 3 hurricanes, and so we need to have some stipulations to give. And staff may want to look at that to see what other cities are doing with those exceptions, those extenuating circumstances.
Mr. Mayor, council members, we will reconsider this section, and I just want to say
With natural disaster, we definitely understand. With other things, I mean, there is normal process, how long it takes to process an application, and we don't want, I understand what Jan's talking about in certain circumstances, but we don't want people to use the county or use somebody else as an excuse to reserve capacity because they're trying to land bank or do something with the property. That's really our main concern. While you are denying the right to give somebody else who's coming, and I'll be very honest with you, the critical path here is really the water and sewer, practically the sewer capacity. And that's why and when we talk about certificate of concurrency, we're talking about several services, including traffic, water, sewer, solid waste, and other areas. But we will, again, look at it and see what's normal process for the county to have up to a final plat, and maybe we just make it equal to the same amount of time.
Mayor, I believe that the way they're trying to organize it now, it is going to organize the process more at the city level versus now you're going through and then catching up somewhat along the lines. This should, right at the beginning, tell you what you need to do, and it should move you along a lot quicker because you'll have all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. But just in case that some of these issues should arise, and with the development that's been in the pipeline for a year, they started in February, and it's taken them a year to get through this process. It just allows them, on good faith, that they've been working as hard as they can and something came up.
I've never seen a perfect system, but there's something will happen. And I just want, if not the council, because I wouldn't want the process they have to come back to us, maybe you can build something in where the manager will have the right to, based on those unusual circumstances beyond the applicant's control, that he could approve it or extend it. Just not to have to come back to us to ask for our approval. Okay, but make the standards very high, like national disasters and those kind of things. But when we're dealing with the county, I will tell you, now you may be as efficient as possible at the city level. When you get to the county and other agencies, you don't have control.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I would say what my good friend, the chief, said once: your wish is our command, so we'll definitely
No, I'm just talking. I mean,
we will review it and see what's practical, work for us and for the applicants.
I know the vice mayor deals with this all the time with his clients. I don't know whether would you want to penalize someone if they've done everything they need to do and they're just waiting on a decision by some other agency and you have no control. You're not delaying it, the county is delaying it because they haven't signed off on it yet. So.
And Mayor, if I may, I have one more question. How will this affect projects that are already in your system before this December 1st? Good question.
Projects.
Already approved projects, so it won't have any effect on already approved projects.
Projects that are already in your system.
Projects are already in the system right now. You still have to have a certificate of concurrency. It just hasn't been applied up front. But it's already in the code. I mean, the whole concurrency management system is already in the code. This is just tweaking some of that language. All the projects that are in the pipeline right now, before they go to site plan or T-plat to City Council for approval, those projects will have to be okay on concurrency, and if not, then they'll have to mitigate appropriately.
But they are not subject to this exact wording. I mean, because there are a few projects specifically that have gone through 2 or 3 revisions on the traffic study based on your concurrency issues right now. I just want to make sure that this 3rd revision that we're about to submit is not going to then have to be subject to this new code that you adopt on December 1st.
Well, I specifically, without getting into the details of which project it is, and I'm not sure the circumstances in which your site plans, your traffic studies had to be resubmitted. Staff would have to speak to that, but it shouldn't have any effect on it. You should be fine. But I say that with the caveat that probably each situation will have to be looked at specifically to determine what those circumstances are.
Right, that just goes back to the revolving door again, is it? We're told one thing, we do it, and then now there's a whole new...
Well, the problem is on a lot of these projects is that based on committed development that came through, based on bigger projects that came through, your project happened to be behind those projects, and traffic studies had to be amended to include new traffic that came online.
Right.
So to the extent that, that is correct. The projects that had been approved, your traffic studies had to be amended to include already committed and developed traffic.
So this will most certainly apply to things after December 1st that officially are submitted, and we'll go case by case based on what...
The ones that are in the process right now, there's a few. There's not many, there's a few. All the new projects that are coming through, staff has been treating them as though this ordinance were adopted. I mean, the specific rules of the game have been laid out and everybody's been treated the same. There's a few projects that were sort of in between the DDR and where we are now, and those projects are being handled accordingly, but there have been some modifications that needed to be made for those traffic studies, but depending on which project you're referring to, more specifically, you might want to talk to staff.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor? You forgot me again. You forgot me again. I wanted to echo and make a statement. I certainly understand Ms. Helm's point of view, but I want to be careful that the guidelines for exceptions are very stringent. Natural disasters, Durham, because we certainly know with our EFBD school, we're in 2 years in the process. So I understand, but I want us to be very careful, because I remember when I was first elected, everything was in the pipeline. It was approved. I want us to be very careful that we don't end up with another nightmare by extension after extension, that I do see a need for an extension provision, and I think it should be stringent. That's just what I wanted to stress, that provision must be stringent. Thank you.
We got a motion and a second on the floor, I think. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 2G is the street code designation, Willie Brown Senior Resolution, tab 7.
Mayor and Council, staff recommends that you approve the code designation of Southwest 11th Avenue between Southwest 4th Street and Southwest 8th Street as Willie Brown Boulevard.
I'll move it, Mayor.
Second. Moved by Councilwoman Bell, second by Councilman Hodge. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? I see Mr. Willie Brown Jr. is in the audience. Congratulations.
No,
Give us your name and address for the record.
Donald Brown, 1760 West Maui Court, Homestead. Thank you, everyone. We were just puzzled as we thought 6th Avenue, I guess 4th Street and 8th Street. That's what we thought.
You're questioning what the streets were?
Yes.
What did you think it was going to be?
6th Avenue, between 4th and 8th. I don't know if you had something different there or anything was mentioned different.
This is 11th Avenue, the street you lived on.
11th, we wanted to go with the one that he lived on.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what the committee came up with.
Yes.
Is this from the Human Relations Board?
It was the HRB.
Yeah.
The Human Relations Board.
Okay, that's what we thought would be best, the one that he lived on.
Correct. Basically, what's just to give you a synopsis of the whole planning scenario, and part of it is initiated by him himself as a request of Mr. Brown. Actually, since 2003, since I've been on council, and he really stayed on me about it, and is to make sure that we, with the Southwest Master Plan, that we designate the streets in the Southwest community so that it doesn't lose its historical value. The plan has basically equated to the entire community, but however, the idea is to take individuals who've built a foundation in the city and look at the streets that they live on and name those streets after them. One of the other streets that we have planned is also Southwest 5th Street, where Mr. Isaiah Key lives. And that one, I think, the reason it wasn't on tonight is because we needed the history on him to be able to present in the resolution. And then the board is also in the process of putting a complete process together where individuals can submit that information to the board, and then they make the decision and designation to come to us for voting. So it's going to be a community-wide effort. So you'll see as time moves on and the program go that, you know, individuals such as Mr. Brown and the significance that he brought to our community be recognized with that honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 2H is the Isla Planning Group Professional Planning Services, tab 8.
I'll move it.
Moved by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Garner. Any question on the Isla Group Planning Services?
Comment.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
I'm particularly pleased to note that it specifically includes within the scope of services the formulation of the Northwest Master Plan, and I hope that we can move forward with all due haste on that. I know we've had a lot of preliminary work and discussions done, and I look forward to finishing that out in the next year.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 2I is the Community ID Program by Buxton, tab 9.
Mayor and Council, this is an item that we've been talking about quite some time. And the last presentation we had, we again had to sit back and to review this again. But in subsequent to that meeting, Carla Alger contacted us, representing the Alger family, and said they were interested in maybe joining with us to have an assessment of that 97 acres, almost 100 acres they have over there, and would be willing to pay half, it turns out, of the cost. So we spoke with Buxton, because their program is they'll look at 3 sites and take one and develop it further for us. So we both would want 2 sites to take forward and develop, and they agreed at the same price of $63,000 to do 2 sites in which they take it further in the development, and we'll have a 3rd site which will not go as far unless we pay extra money. So the price would be for the city $31,500, since we split 50-50 with the Algers.
Any comments? This is something majority of the council wanted.
You asked to get developers to pitch in, so.
Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Been offered? Offered and second by Mr. Hart, second by the Vice Mayor. If there's no additional questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And before we move on, and Mr. Porter's back, what's the status of the Transportation Master Plan?
We've approved it.
Yeah.
It's already gone through.
I thought we were supposed to have a workshop on it, remember?
Transportation Master Plan. Status.
One of the things we wanted to do, Mr. Mayor, was really put together some information, almost like a marketing piece, to tell the community what's in the plan, what to look forward to, where the priorities currently are in the master plan. And that's really kind of, I think that's coming up first of the year. No, the marketing side of it, I don't think Lillian's here, but
I have a meeting with her tomorrow. We can.
There was something in one of our newsletters. We had this newsletter was occupied with something, and I think the next newsletter was going to kind of try to focus on the all the aspects of the master plan, what's in it, and kind of give the community an opportunity to see where we are. That was what was planned. But if Ms. Garner will talk to Lillian tomorrow, she can bring us back something.
If you want something specific on that sent out, we can surely do that. It is important.
The concept was, with talking to Lillian, was to put it on, to really broadcast it out to everyone that may not get the News Leader or may not get the Herald, but may get it. We may be able to get them the City Net. So that was the intention, to get it out to the community.
Okay.
Okay.
Item 2J was the sale of 10 acres of the Park of Commerce, tab 10. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor and Council, Park of Commerce, what can I say? It's a never-ending story. But we agreed to sell the 100 acres, put it out for bid, which I have something for you tonight I know that you'll appreciate. You'll probably throw back at me. But
very good.
But just to make sure there's nothing in kind of the front part that you have any objection to for the bid. But subsequent to that meeting, a company has come forward that I felt like I should not independently make the decision whether or not we'd want to go back and review this particular proposal, because it had some of the criteria, really a couple of significant criteria that you look for. J&B Importers, it's been around a while, quite a large company. We have representatives here. I won't talk about their company because they can. But they sent in a proposal for 10 acres at the Park of Commerce, subsequent to, our decided to bid. But in this proposal, they are, one, an end user. Two, they are going to build or intend to build 150,000 square foot office warehouse. And thirdly, to employ 108 employees. They have agreed to close by December 27th, I was told. And if I say anything that's mischaracterizing where you're at, you can let me know. But I didn't feel like I should dismiss this out of hand without bringing it before council, because it is a significant development by an end user here at the park. So I know where we were. There's some pros and cons related to it, but I put it out for your guidance.
Mayor?
Comments, Ms. Bell?
Thank you. My only comment would be a bit of confusion, because as you all know, I was pretty vocal. We first sold 18 acres and with no bid, and everybody was pleased about that. And then we had pretty much a consortium, a group of 4 different companies that wanted to come and buy the whole entire thing for a very good price, and they were all end users as well and wanted to start immediately. I think the comment was, when will you begin developing? And the comment was, the shovels are in the trunk of my car. So that was the end user. So now I'm a bit baffled that we had stated, this council had stated 5-2, that we were concerned about the process, that we wanted to go ahead and put it out for RFP, and that we were not going to entertain any offers until we had gotten the bid package out. We would entertain no offers. So mine isn't anti this company or anti anything, except for I thought we had been given direction. I thought direction had been given that there would be the entertainment of no offers until we had accomplished the RFP process with the RFP bid package. Now, what I would recommend is that, since there's 10 acres involved, that this group would join the other 4, I think it was 4, and because they probably had about 10 acres as well that they were purchasing. So I think that they should join the bid of the other group and come back as a whole like they did the last time. But again, and it's not against this company whatsoever, it's not about that. It's about that this council had decided on the process, and I cannot see bypassing the process that this council had determined about 2 months ago. So that's where I stand. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Any other comments? Question, Mayor. Mr. Porter?
Is this Walter Bird from the old Rockefeller?
He was with Trammell Crow.
He's with Trammell Crow, but he was with Rockefeller, right?
Right. He's not with that same one. He was the one, though, with Rockefeller.
Right. As far as the invitation to bid, I know that Where is that? Where are we on that? How long before it comes to council?
I got copies for you tonight to look at, and then next week, depending on, what we do tonight, next week, so
I mean, in the invitation to bid, is it opportunity for 10-acre pieces, 20-acre pieces, or one lot?
One lot, 100 acres.
That can be changed, right? Or do you not want to do that?
Well, we didn't, in all fairness, we didn't want to piecemeal it off to begin with. We ended up doing some of that. We wanted a master builder, developer for the park. And in our, through all the negotiations that went on and it got protracted, we were losing what could have been, some good clients for us. They weren't, we weren't moving forward, and we stood the chance of losing some, so that's why we brought back the 4 acres and then the 14 acres. All end users, and that's the term we use. They're not, they're supposed to be end users. They have people all ready to go into those. One of them's building on their 4 acres. The 14 has a number of clients already waiting, they said, that would go in and fill the 14 acres. Then this is at 1 10-acre for one client in this case. We really don't want to keep doing that because we have to get in and then you have to set up a development plan, a master plan for the park. You start selling too much of it off, then you kind of lose that ability. And we're pretty much at that point right now. This was a particularly large and company and proposal and a good type of activity we've always wanted down. We've always talked about being in the park. So I didn't want to just say without you knowing, no, we're not going to do that because we said this. I keep in mind this is, people are going to think this is unfair that had put in for it before. But basically, I mean, if it's a good enough, if it moves you enough, there's nothing says we can't do what we need to do with our property when we want to do it, how we want to do it, at all. It's just that we have gone a long way. This is the way we were going to go. Unfortunately, this came in subsequent to deciding to do this. And again, I didn't feel that I should be the one to say no and not let you know about it.
I appreciate that. And I'm just curious as to the invitation. Obviously, you've got it drafted. It's pretty much ready to come to council. But it's one block. It's one block. The 100-acre piece, all under one invitation to bid.
That's what this represents.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Start. Ms. Bell? You want to...
Hodges first. Mr.
Hodge and then Ms. Bell.
I just wanted to share somewhat my opinions with the council because, well, with the board. I forgot what meeting we're at. And just to let you know that, Kurt and I, finally have basically sat on the opposite sides of opinions for us, how to deal with the park, not in a negative format, but, just the opinions are somewhat different. And I know the previous council had always looked at doing the one sale and it's gone. And we put guidelines and require the individual to create what we would like to see in the park and to generate the jobs. However, I did, and actually Mr. LaPrade and I had this conversation before he left, and I think he really instilled it in me, and it made a lot of sense. Before Bear, there was actually a master plan of the Park of Commerce that was done that created a standardization for whoever buy a parcel in the park, that everything will be standardized. And as a matter of fact, the group that was before us to purchase that basically use that plan. Ideally, where the lots and things were carved out is from that plan. I have a copy of it at my house. I was doing some cleaning up this weekend and actually came across it. And it's basically the same plan as they were utilizing and where the lots were carved out. So there is a master plan that's been put away and collected dust already for the Park of Commerce. It just need to be pulled out, dusted off, and updated, and it would and give us the enhancements that we have. And my vision for that is looking at it at this aspect. If we sell parcel by parcel and we carve out the different parcels that we offer, then yes, it may be more work for our attorneys. It will be more work for our management staff. But I think we have an individual that's in charge of development now that could handle some of these things. But my vision for this is that as we sell the properties, the more we sell, the more valuable the property is going to become. The more this developed, the more valuable the property is going to become. And right now, to me, I still say we're underpriced in some format or some fashion on this property. And I look at this as an asset to the city that can be utilized not only as a one-time deal, but as a future investment and as something to bring income to the city and fund the coffers of the city for at least another 5 to 10 years. And by doing that would be, $1 million sale here, a $2 million sale there. And that is revenue dollars that will come over time. Would it cost us some time? Yes, it will cost us some time. But as time goes on, again, the property gets more valuable. And as the property gets more valuable, we get a little bit better pricing for the property. And we're not just giving it all away at one time. I mean, I think it's been said many times before. Once we sign on the dollar line, it's gone, and if it's gone, it's gone. So the best thing we can do is take care of it as best as possible, and by doing a little bit here and a little bit there, the value of the land will grow, and as the value of the land grows, that's more income to the city. Yes, we may get 13 million. Tomorrow or during January or whatever the case may be, but that 13 million could easily be 20, 25 million over a course of time by wisely taking advantage of the asset that we have. And it's just a thought, and personally I prefer doing a piece at a time, and we have an individual that take care of that for us and let the asset grow. And because that's what it is to the city, and we'll get more of a bigger bang for the dollar out of it at the end of the day. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Any other comments?
Question, Mayor.
Ms. Brown?
The way the RFP is currently written as being sold as a whole, if the group, like the previous group, came and they pulled their resources again, would they be able to buy it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it would be no different. Okay, a comment. Whether we sell 10 acres now or 100 acres, the appraised price is still the appraised price. It's going to be the same money. It's going to be the same money. It's going to either be pay me now or pay me later, but it's going to be the same dollar. I've never been the one that said you have to sell it all. That's never. I have been in favor of selling 10 and 20 as long as it's been consistent with the Park of Commerce master plan, which I knew we had as well. So that's never been. But the bottom line is that council decided and council gave direction and council gave direction to you, because you made a recommendation to sell it to the people that came previously. You made a recommendation, and that recommendation was voted down 5-2 to go out to bid for the RFP process, which is what's sitting on the desk right there. And so I think that these guys, like I said before, should go meet with the other guys and again gather as a group and fulfill the bid package. But I think it would be, I heard the talks of consistency and I heard talks of process. I'd be very concerned if we sold any portion of it right now after we've gone on record to say we want to be consistent and we're concerned about the process. I think we need to be very, very careful right now because we've gone on record saying that. And so, again, let's let the process take. We've spent countless hours, attorney dollars, on preparing these. The least we need to do is let them go forth. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Real quick question, I'll have some later, but Kurt, is this crafted as an RFP or a bid?
Invitation to bid.
Invitation to bid. And obviously with the opportunity to reject, it's winner take all for whatever use may
It's called an
come.
invitation to bid, but it is not an invitation to bid. It is a request for proposal.
It is an
There are
RFP.
subjective criteria in the proposal, like their financing, their construction plan, their site plan. It is not a pure bid.
Okay.
It's called an invitation to bid because I think that's what everybody felt comfortable calling it, but it is really
An RFP.
it's not like you fill in the blank, how much are you going to pay us? There are other things which you would normally call a request for a proposal, but people felt comfortable calling it an invitation to bid, but it's not a pure bid document. There are subjective criteria there, the type of development, the type of developer, their experience as a developer, all those things are in this document. So it's a subjective evaluation, not an objective one.
Many of those same issues that have brought Mr. Ivy to bring this proposal forward tonight that are incorporated in this request for proposal. Yep, job creation.
This is beefed up because we get into this definition RFP from our procurement office, and this isn't, by our definition there in RFP, that's why we call it an invitation to bid, but we did beef it up in terms of, it's like kind of on steroids, I guess you'd say, is some of the requirements we wanted because of what we've been through with this park before with people coming and making offers. This tries to nail down serious, no land banking, serious people for development, immediate start for development and continue development so that we don't get land banking, anybody in there just to flip it and a hold to somebody else. We try to make that difficult. We want people that want to come in there and develop it and put it to use as quickly as possible.
Refresh my memory. The group that was here last time when the majority of council elected to put a process in place, and that's what's brought us to this invitation to bid package that you put before us. The proposal then was within certain time frames for a minimum of 200,000 square feet?
Correct.
And that would have been on a whole 100 acres. So I think it's important to note that what we have here tonight is someone who's ready to go and put 3/4 of that amount on 1/10 of the property within a shorter time frame.
What we have here is they have to do 20%. They have to pull a permit within 18 months. And it was kind of hard crafting this and not make it too onerous to where you discourage people, but at the same time you're trying to make people know that you're serious and you're expecting to see and hold them to a certain amount of development. So we said 20% of the developable property. They had to start, they had to pull a permit in 18 months. They had to then through continuous building and build out. If that's not done, then there's a penalty. Yeah, a significant penalty to the city. So in this, so how many? That hopefully I'll drive out the non-serious and the speculators versus somebody who wants to come in and do this thing. So that was the design of just what you were talking about there.
And I guess my perspective, I really got this true eerie feeling of deja vu sitting here listening to this. And I, believe it or not, tend to agree with Mr. Hodges' comments that, as you said earlier, Kurt, it's our property. We have the option of doing whatever we want with it, whenever we want with it. And as much as I agree with Mr. Hodge that maybe there is no question in my mind that values and interest will continue to increase with every sale. And I have to reconcile that with the directives to you of a majority of this council to establish a process. Like I want to say, okay, let's pick a plan and go with it and be consistent. Because to flip-flop again, as much as I'd like, I'm familiar with this company, I know they're credible, and I'd be excited to have them come here. The bigger picture talks about credibility, I think, and consistency. And I know that we would probably be better served in the long run to piecemeal it out, if you will, in our discretion. And although I wasn't in that majority, I mean, we've been back and forth a couple of times. We've got the same thing in the pipeline I hear with the stadium. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to sell it? Are we going to lease it? What are we going to do? I think to maintain our integrity and credibility and have a good faith effort with the development community, we need to stick with what this council, at least at one time, directed and go along that path. I'm hopeful that somehow that this applicant will get into the deal and get their 10-acre piece of the pie and move forward as they propose. But I think for bigger picture issues as how we're viewed as a government and as a council, we need to stick with the directives. I mean, you and your staff have spent a couple of months and untold hours and dollars generating this package, and to start to whittle away at it now would probably not be productive. And and again, Kurt, I'm glad you brought it so we can have this discussion, and I wish we were in a position, I wish this were before us a couple of months ago,
Yep, I agree.
where we could have tacked it on to the first deal and moved forward. But I think we've hopped on a train, and I think we need to continue to take that ride. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Well, I want to echo everything the Vice Mayor said, because I do think that we have made a very firm policy position on this, and that was to put out that RFP and give everybody out an equal opportunity to apply. And I think we need to move forward on it. And more importantly, I think I appreciate what you've done in bringing this to our attention. And as Councilwoman Bell said, I'm hoping there's a way that this company can get involved in this process. And I would hope that we put the RFP out tomorrow and open the gates and let everyone that have an interest in being part of Homestead to put it in application. But I think to deviate from that policy decision, we'll be going in the wrong direction, and I couldn't support it. Yes, sir.
This is not a developer. They are in a position with cash in the bank to close by year end. They have offered more than the actual appraised value to offset whatever costs you might have in adjusting the 100 acres to 90 acres, whatever that would cost. It's a 150,000 square foot warehouse, as I mentioned. So, if you're looking for someone to build 200,000 square feet over whatever term, these guys are not going to buy this, build a spec building and hope to lease it out. These guys are going to build it and move in. They've been in business since 1971. They just celebrated a 35-year anniversary. They are based in southern Dade County now, and will bring 103 jobs to the city of Homestead. And I've heard you talk all night about business generation and economic generation and so forth. And I know you've spent significant dollars and so forth in that bid package, but I don't know how difficult it actually is to change from 100 acres to 90 acres and keep the rest of the package the same. So, if you have any questions, we have all the principles here. We're prepared to move forward and close by year end. And if the deal you have on that 18-acre site were to fall through and not close, we're prepared to move to that 18-acre. Take 10 of that 18 acres at the same cost that we proposed. So, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments from Council, Mr. Porter?
This, the invitation that RFP, whatever we're going to call it, what do you foresee the timeline for us reviewing that as a council, getting that out, getting that back to you to make another recommendation?
Well, we put in here, we're pretty much ready to go. We got a couple of things that we'll fix on here, but I wanted to go ahead and the bulk of it and the meat of this is already prepared and won't change. And to get you to look to see if there's anything that you want changed before we move forward. We'd like to get it out as quickly as possible thereafter, and we're prepared to do that. Got Brian, we talked about that today with what
if we can have it back by Thursday from your comments, that maybe next Tuesday we could get it out for publication.
How long would you circulate it?
90 days.
90 days?
So by the end of January, you'll be seeing.
And who reviews it when it comes back?
It's actually going to be a committee made up of whoever the city manager designates on that.
Okay. So within 120 some odd days, we should have something before council, right?
Could be less than that,
Could
but
be
yeah.
less.
just one of the issues.
Why the 90-day time frame? That's a long time.
We've got the holidays. We've got Thanksgiving and Christmas that we're doing this through. Again, trying to give people a chance. It's a pretty long, pretty big package. We can do it less. I mean, that's just what
I'd like to see a lot less, and the real world business goes on.
Due diligence before they... I'm sorry, Mayor, council members, the reason we came up with the 90 days was we want them to do all the legwork on due diligence before they submit the package. We didn't want to just go for the, say, call it the highest bidder, and then they have to go through the due diligence and the qualifications, and then it go, this entity goes belly up or they walk away. We want them to do everything up front, then submit it to us, and practically after Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, after they submit it to us, there's 1 month to just do the contract, so everything would be ready to go.
1 month to do the contract or 1 month to close?
1 month to Brian.
Basically, contract as far as the closing. That's what Mike was saying in regards to all the due diligence is going to be done during that 90-day period. So, I mean, in real estate, I'm not really sure. Do you go into contract after award, whatever the attorneys, and then go for closing? So, I mean...
Can we cut it to 60 days?
We could, if that's what you want.
I agree.
Sound familiar?
Let's get it done in 60 days, and we have been talking about this for a long time, and I think the ones that are going to respond is well aware, far in advance of what this council had in mind, so I don't think they need 90 days. Because people like this gentleman and others in the audience have been waiting, and probably at the end of the day, they're going to get the project anyway, so we don't need to give any 90-day notice to anybody. And the ones that was in the audience several months ago, they're aware of it, that it was coming. And we talked about stipulations and what we'd like to see happen, so let's get it done and over.
Mayor, just one other note as far as that goes. When we do advertise this, we also will be putting in like USA Today and Wall Street Journal and larger publications as well, just for your information.
Mayor, if I could add something here. If you do have comments, if at all possible, we want to do that at a public meeting rather than feeding it privately for sunshine issues. So Monday, if you have anything at the public meeting, you're going to bring it up. I don't know how much time that gives you, but to peruse it and see if there's anything that's glaring to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor, and I would hope that the council don't delay this process. Now, if you get your copy, take a look at it. Let's talk about it at the council meeting we got a meeting on Monday? On Monday, and let's direct the staff to put it on the street on Tuesday.
Mayor, one more comment. I would really, it's a bit heartbreaking to see such a respectful corporation, and I absolutely know what you can do, but we the problem is, 2 months ago, we did set a process in place, but I would hardly recommend that you would go find the other group, and I think there's some of them are in here tonight. Go talk with them right now and join forces with them and put in your combined big package so that you can be a part of the package, because I would love to see this come back to us. I would really love to see you guys come back to us as a part of the whole bid package. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I don't, we're not in a position to buy 100 acres. We don't know who is going to be bidding on this project, and we don't know if we're going to end up marrying the winner of the project. And then when they do, whoever the bidder is, they're going to probably want to build a speculative product and maybe try to flip 10 acres to us at a higher number. We don't know what could happen, and we're ready to go today. So I've been in the real estate business for a very long time, and it sounds like a lot of this is subjective, actually. I haven't read the package, but we are ready to go today, and we'd love to end up meeting the winning bidder and somehow making a deal with them, but we don't know if that's going to actually possible. We will attempt to do that, but we don't know if that's possible.
But there's some gentlemen in the audience who are more than willing to talk to you about it. I think you guys can make it happen.
Absolutely.
Okay. You guys have anything you want to add?
Do you need a motion, Mayor?
No motions.
Okay.
All right. Roman numeral 2 Finance Committee, Councilwoman Bell.
Thank you. Bid 200602, we have change orders from Mastec.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Item B, bid 200620, maintenance of hero-owned and other various city-owned properties.
Move, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. C, construction of Harris Field restrooms.
Move it.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded, and there's been a lot of discussion on this already. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. We have a budget amendment.
Be a companion to the prior one.
Right, which is a companion. Residential impact fees for the Harrisfield restroom construction project and resolution.
Move the recommendation.
Been properly moved by Councilman Porter, seconded by Councilman Hodge. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Item E, asphalt zipper machine for public works and resolution.
We need it. Move the recommendation. What's a zipper machine?
Yeah, what is a zipper machine? I just have to ask that. What is it?
It's a grinder.
I'll take a stab at it.
It's a grinder.
Technical knowledge. It goes in, it can strip off the top layer. You see it where it's all
grinder.
chewed up. Yeah, it
Grinds the top surface of the material.
Okay, it's been
As
probably...
far as I know.
All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Item F, purchase of laptops for new police employees and resolution.
Move it.
So moved. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Item G, United Healthcare Insurance Renewal and Resolution.
Move it. Won't say anything this time.
Second.
There's a revised item on this, but it just adds the
But
price.
it's been properly moved and seconded, and I do have a question. Marcy, I had brought to a few physicians that had dropped United, and I'm seeing a little bit of a trend. Is there a problem? Has that been corrected? I know 2 physicians that were on United when I got my booklet have now dropped.
Well, I know that the provider directory changes. Doctors come in and out all the time. I know there was a problem with the ENTs, and they're still negotiating with that. There are other providers for ENTs that are not necessarily in the Homestead area, but there are others in their network. But I believe that the ENT provider is still a problem at this moment.
Yes, it is. Because I had to look for one, and Dr. Kosov is the only one within 60 miles.
That's right.
And the ones that were 60 miles away, I had to wait 6 months to get an appointment to. So
that was one for me as well. I just want us to check into that, because sometimes there's a trend. If an insurance company is having a problem paying, they're not paying in a timely fashion, or they're having to wait too long, then different physicians will begin to drop off because they're waiting 6 months, 3 to 6 months to get paid. So I just would really like us to check into that, just to make sure that there isn't an issue that could pose a problem, because twice, and I mean, it was a very recent book as well, and they didn't even wait for the new year. It was a drop-off before the new year and the new book came out, which is not a good sign. It wasn't even correct.
The representative from...
I looked online and called several different offices that had said they just recently dropped it.
I went through the same thing, by the way.
Bruce Fitzpatrick is our representative from TR Jones that oversees our health insurance, and we also have a couple representatives from United Healthcare here.
Yeah.
So I would like them to address that.
Yeah, the other one was a dermatologist too, that was local, now I have to go far, so.
Yeah, regarding the providers, particularly the ENTs, we represent all the insurance carriers at TR Jones, and with every single carrier, you do have some provider situations. Providers come and go, they come on the plan, they go off the plan. I've been talking with United regarding this. They're back negotiating with South Florida ENT. As you also heard that they were in negotiations with HCA, and now HCA is back in the fold. I've been talking with Neil, and what was it you said that they've added? Since last year, there's over 1,000 new physicians.
Yeah, basically, we've experienced about a 20% growth in our network of physicians over the last 12 months. So we went from, for the 3 counties, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, we went from close to 7,000 physicians, actually 6,786 to be exact, up to 8,158 as of September 30th. And as far as our terminations, just to give you an idea, the national average for terminations is about 3%, and we're running 1% voluntary terminations and 0.2% involuntary terminations, so that's 1.2%, which is way below the national average. We understand the concerns with South Florida ENT. Those discussions had stopped for a while, but they have, begun again recently, and we are optimistic that we will reach agreement with that organization. And so we're constantly trying, we're constantly working with the provider network, and I guess our feeling is that if we were a problem payer, or if we were not offering a competitive schedule, that our network would not be growing so much, year over year.
I have another question as well. What about somebody has a prescription, they've been on that prescription for 4 or 5 years, and that's the required physician, and you get a letter in the mail, which we just did, saying we're no longer going to pay for that medicine. So you're on your own, and here's a coupon for a free over-the-counter. What do you do then? Because that is not just, I'll be specific, Nexium as compared to over-the-counter products like when it's acid reflux, not just acid indigestion. I'm sorry to be this gross, but this is very real-world stuff.
I understand.
And when you have a prescription for a serious problem, and suddenly you're just given a letter in the mail, sorry, we're not going to pay for that anymore, you're on your own.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, we do have a pharmaceutical committee that studies these decisions very closely. Basically, our certificate, the way we write our policies, is that we have a committee that reviews our prescription list, and we are allowed to make, I believe it's 3, if not 4 changes per year to our prescription drug list. We are very careful. We would be happy to provide more information as far as, our studies that we've done indicate that there are alternatives. In fact, there are alternatives that are the exact ingredient equivalent of Nexium, for example. And so we make sure that there are other options. And
so that's a brand new alternative then, because it didn't exist before.
Well,
it has to be new.
Well, yes, we've made certain changes, and some prescriptions have actually dropped to the lower tier to be more affordable. And like I said, we'd be happy to forward actual specifics in terms of these alternatives.
So when you do something like that, and you just remove somebody from somebody's ability to get their medication, the letter did not indicate that there was an alternative medication, that, let's say, a generic. So it might behoove you to indicate that while we will no longer pay for this, we will pay for this, rather than just you're off and you're on your own.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions from council?
Yes. I would like that information on the prescriptions as well, because I received a letter in July that said your prescription's being moved to a different tier, so now instead of $25 a month, you're going to pay $40 a month. And my concern is just for city employees who are on a monthly budget, it didn't give me any alternatives either, but maybe we can forward the information to the employees just so they know, just to give them a heads up. that if something's changed over the year, these are your alternatives, like Ms. Bell said, if there was something equivalent.
Show us, tell us.
Yeah, just so that they know, because I got the letter after I had already gone to the drugstore and said, why did my prescription go up? And they couldn't even tell me. And then I got the letter, and I was a little upset about that.
Mayor and Council, I believe the letters went to the people that the drug applied to. It would be hard for us to send out something to all employees on specific drugs that maybe nobody used. So I know they do send it specifically to the person that is actually actively taking that drug. Neil, there is a number where if anyone has a question that they could call, can they call a regular 800 number for United to have some of these questions answered?
Absolutely. The number on the back of the card, the membership card, would be the place to call for members. Sure.
I just thought it would be, some of the employees probably have prescriptions. I thought if they had something maybe in a PDF format, we could email it to them. If they don't take prescriptions, delete the email. If they do, they might want to look through it, because a lot of people take a lot of different prescriptions.
I think it is the insurance company's responsibility, though, to contact each and every particular employee, each and every insured employee for their particular medication. But I think it goes beyond that. Like I said earlier, if you're going to remove somebody's ability to get their prescription, you must provide them with an alternative. You just can't have a letter that says, we will no longer pay for this, and send you a coupon for 14 Prilosec or whatever it is. That is just not the way to just, I'm not trying to be hard on you, but just if you're going to say no to this, say yes to something else.
Sure. We'll work more closely with Bruce and Marcy and make sure that the communications are complete.
Yeah, the other thing is that if any of the employees are having problems with anything regarding the health care, obviously they can go to staff. In a lot of cases, the staff, the HR department, can refer them to T.R. Jones, and we have one account manager that works almost exclusively on this account. So she could be of great help to those employees also.
Do you also have a provision for, because I hear from other employees as well, it's not just about me and it's not just about us, but we hear from other employees as well. But for instance, somebody breaks their ankle and they're right there in the ankle leg pain center, and there's crutches right there, but they're not allowed to get them there. They can't even go across the street and get them. They've got to go to Cooper City and get them. Or they'll UPS them, so you have to borrow somebody else's crutches till you can get them UPS to your house. This happened. So I went to you about that. And or they need a cam walker, and so they have to go, well, they can get it right across the street, literally right here across the street in the Homestead. They can't, because they have to go to Cooper City or somewhere in Hollywood to get that.
Right. I mean, what you're saying there, for somebody to have to go to Cooper City for crutches makes no sense. Earlier, the president of United Healthcare South Florida was here, but he had a family issue and had to leave. But he'd already, when we discussed that with him before the meeting, he had already emailed one of his staff about why that occurred. So we should have an answer on exactly why that occurred, because it shouldn't have. And again, in that particular instance, the individual involved there, they could have, if they would have called our office, I'm sure we would have been able to alleviate that situation.
We did. I did, personally.
Did you call T.R. Jones?
No, I called United Healthcare, the 1-800 number, and they basically told me that's, sorry.
Well, like I said, I think...
This is real-world experiences, and I hate to bring this, but this, if we're experiencing this, 7 of us, and there's 2 or 3 of us that experienced 4 or 5 issues, multiply that citywide by the employees, and there will be a lot of discontent, especially with what insurance costs today, that we really need to be careful, in simple things, just very simple things.
Yeah, your point's very well taken. Like I said, the crutch thing, there's no excuse for that. Yeah, I would make the comment, though, that I've been doing this for the city for 18 years, and the amount of complaints that we've had is pretty similar to the amount we have whenever we switch carriers. We have almost 400 individuals or families on it, comprising almost 1,000 people, and frankly, the amount of problems we've had, while all of these problems are important, and in a lot of cases, like the point you brought up, shouldn't happen, and these need to be corrected. But by and large, I think most of the employees are fairly happy with the plan. But like I said, your point is well taken, and I wish, in the future, and staff knows this, that our office, in a lot of cases, is able to troubleshoot, and we're able to do a little better job than you might get from an 800 number, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve the employees of the City of Homestead, to do everything in our power to make sure that they can navigate the health system. And I think you'd agree, it's a difficult system these days, and that goes without saying. So.
Thank you very much. Councilman Hodge?
Thank you. Since you guys opened up the can of worms.
Sorry. This is the place to do it.
All right. Yes, it is. All right. The provider growth you spoke about are great numbers, but my question would be how much of that growth is in Dade County, specifically in the southern Dade County, because we are in Homestead, and although we do have individuals that drive from Broward County and North Dade, I could probably guesstimate 70 to 80% of our employees live in Homestead or in the surrounding areas. So based on 20% growth, and you say you add 1,000 providers, how many of them are right close in our vicinity that we have access to them?
That's information we'd have to drill down into, so we'd have to go back to the network management area and ask them to provide us with that kind of specific information. But certainly it's something we can check into.
And that is important information, because one of the challenges is always physicians locally, and it's a challenge with most of the carriers, because I do know that our employees here do not like to have to travel up to Kendall for health care. So.
If I could just add, the idea with providing you with that information was just to address perhaps any concerns that there were problems with our network, that our network was dwindling in size, and so that was the reason for bringing up the growth.
Yeah, you was prepared for that one, but you're not prepared for mine. And I brought up that specifically because of the fact that this is a complete renewal, as if you really didn't. What I'm saying is, if you're servicing the City of Homestead and the City of Homestead employees, it will behoove you to take the opportunity not just to renew an insurance carrier. And I tell you, there was issues from this particular insurance carrier from the beginning that I personally got feedback from, and I asked, when was this we want to renew, because I specifically want to be involved in this process, but I see it here tonight, and I asked to be involved in this process, which I wasn't invited, but I'm going to invite myself at this point. The reason I'm saying this is because if you're servicing the City of Homestead employees, realizing where the City of Homestead employees live and work, this is our area. So we need a carrier that's going to provide not just insurance, but be able to provide the service to the individuals who it insures. And we are in the South Dade area, so we would need a provider that would be very popular in this area. And again, looking at the rates and the value of the overall service, not just relationship that this carrier already have and the account that it already have. So we just, they're only going to go up 6%, so we'll just stay with them because it's not a large increase. I can guarantee you, and you know this yourself, you've been in the business for a long time, that we're on a different level of employees at this point than we were last year, because now we're over the 500 number, and there's even more of a negotiation standpoint ability that we have now, being over the 500 number. And I can guarantee you, if you took the opportunity to contact any of the other insurance carriers, they would have been very competitive, if not dollar for dollar. And then we could have looked at the value that they could bring by servicing our community and the local area within what we need to be able to, be able to go to a doctor in Homestead or close by. I mean, Kendall's not so bad, but when you have to drive to North Dade, and things of that nature for things, because you're looking at pretty much a national carrier that looks at broad spectrum and a broad number. We need to be serviced because, I mean, what's this, $3 million or more? I mean, that's a lot of money to be flaking out and can't get service. And personally, I think we can do better, and if we took the time to put the work in for the money that we're going to be compensated for this, we should take the time to better serve the individuals who have the need.
Councilman Hodge, if I might, I think we should get those numbers for you that you requested to see. You specifically said how many additional physicians in the South Dade area, and I think that's a valid question. I think we should go ahead and proceed with this tonight and then get Mr. Hodge his numbers back to him. But I want to go ahead and proceed with this item and then get Mr. Hodge's numbers, because I think that was a very good question.
We should be able to get those numbers to them by the end of this week. We'll get those to you, Councilman.
Thank you.
This will be on the council meeting on Monday for final approval, right?
Right, that's right. Is there anything further from this council? Yes, Mr. Losner. I thought you were going to pass on this one.
No. It's been a long night, and I just want to say that once again, I'm going to happily, in this case, go against the flow of the majority, because I'd be hearing it from my wife, who has to deal with all the kids' appointments, issues, and doctors, if things weren't going well, and I know that she's been very happy with the coverage, with the service, with the reimbursements that we're getting that we did not get with prior carriers. So I just want to tell you that our family's personal experience under this plan has been very positive.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Losner. It's very good to get some good news, and I'm certainly not saying it's all bad, because I've had some very good responses with them as well. I just think that if there's even just a few situations and a few problems, we need to fix them.
Sure.
So, but
absolutely.
Thank you very much for taking this from us. We really do appreciate it. The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. All opposed? Thank you. That's it, Mayor, for me.
Thank you. Utility Committee, Councilman Hodge.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance amending the City Code, Chapter 28, Utilities, Tab 18.
Mr. Hodge, members of council, this is an ordinance, Mr. Hodge, that I think you'll be happy to see. This is the undergrounding of utilities in the infill houses and infill lots.
Move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chairman, with a question. Question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Now, this deals with what we would traditionally call the service from the pole to the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Why would we not mandate that for all new residential construction rather than just infill?
Because it's already.
But, well, I don't know. There's scattered lots in my neighborhood, Mr. Ivy's neighborhood, and I don't know that they're particularly defined as infill, but I would certainly prefer, and I can think of where somebody's about to build 8 houses that are not on infill lots, but they're all together. I'd certainly like to see underground. So, how do we reconcile that infill definition with not large-scale development, but not infill, but isolated case-by-case construction?
In this, and just see if this answers your question, Vice Mayor, and the definition of infill housing means new construction of residential housing units on vacant lots situated within infill sites which lots have not been developed previously or has become vacant through demolition of structure.
Well, typically we think of infill lots as
Hurricane Andrews.
Different kinds of areas, not just lots that have, that are next to a house where somebody's used it as a yard, just kind of. It almost has a blight connotation to it, and typically that's how when we talk about infill with Mr. Stouts, I think typically that's the connotation, revitalization, blighted areas. So, are we comfortable that this is going to apply to other as well?
Mr. Losner, council members, actually, we had this discussion with Greg earlier this morning. Our definition of infill lot really fills the holes for everything other than new development. For new developments, they are required to have underground. And infill, the way it's defined in this ordinance, really anything else.
And this also applies to non-residential construction as well, doesn't it? It's not already dragging it in? I thought I saw it in there.
Yeah.
Greg saying all
We're plugging
the...
holes.
Yeah, we're specifically dealing with new construction.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Well, there is, and that do, thank you, Vice Mayor, that did bring me to a point when there is a statement here, and I guess it's under the same definition Mr. Ivy was reading, section 28-281 definitions, where it says infill housing. Halfway down in the middle of that definition, it says means improvements to the structure and value at least $10,000 or of the nature that enables occupied or non-occupied dwelling to be reoccupied or inhabited. So that also, that intakes improvements. So if I'm improving my property and it's costing me $10,000 or more, I'm having to underground it. Is that correct?
What would be the cost of that? I mean, because, okay, the cost of adding on to a house is atrocious.
Yeah.
And if you add the undergrounding to that, what are we really talking about there? Because I think we can make a distinction there between new construction and renovation and addition.
Well, we had that conversation this morning as well, because I just renovated as well, so I know what that runs. But what we thought caught that was which enables an unoccupied or non-habitable dwelling. So if I'm living in my house, I want to remodel, that doesn't fit that definition. That's kind of where we went with that, because when I said 10,000, I knew that wouldn't take long.
So, for example, that's an empty house that's blown to somebody, and now when somebody buys it and they say, okay, I'm going to fix it up, sell it, or rent it out, now they're having to do the underground, and that's the $10,000 limit. Because the way I read that is, if I decide to do my roof, it's going to cost me $10,000, I'm going to have to go underground. So that's...
I have a...
Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, I think Stephen Walzer asked about the cost to underground, and it's anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 is our estimates to underground an existing service. And it wouldn't necessarily mean if you roofed your house that you'd have to underground your service, because it's in regards to an uninhabited house to be inhabited. So if you've already inhabited your house and you're going to put a new roof on, you don't necessarily have to underground your service, even though I'd recommend that you do.
Okay.
Okay. I want to be clear on this because I want to make sure that we don't stumble into something.
Right. This could be a pandemic.
Tell me what it, because this could be a mess.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is that you want to include, and tell me what it is you don't want to include, so that we can meet between now and Monday and make sure that we've got this thing drafted just the way you want to do it.
I don't like the $10,000 number, because nowadays you sneeze and you spend $10,000. I think that's, even if you buy a blighted house and fix it up and you're improving on the community and you're improving on the home, now we're going to say, okay, now you have to do this, jump to this hurdle too. I thought that we were, when we had discussed this, I thought we were specifically referring to new homes as far as infill housing, new lots, new homes to require the developers. Not if you go in and restore a blighted home, or, I mean, we just talked about getting the grant dollars to restore them. Now we're going to also require them to go underground. I think that...
Well, can we do it in another way, if you don't mind, as opposed to what we don't want to cover? What do you want to cover? That would be another way to do this, so I can understand.
New construction.
I think new construction.
New construction.
Okay.
Also,
but the problem is the term infill. Okay. So you want to,
include
infill. All new construction, or all new construction in previously improved neighborhoods?
I think the fine line, I'm not, personally, I don't think the improvements to an uninhabited home is a bad idea. I think it should make more read, though, along the standards of the city's current code, where I think it's if you improve more than 50 or 60% of your your home, it automatically has to come to code anyways. So I think if it's more
Whatever that trigger would be.
Yeah, whatever that trigger.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Just follow non-conforming use and then it triggers at 50%.
Correct.
Non-conforming structure.
And then that would trigger that, would trigger that.
So if you're if we're rehabilitating a rehab, it's 50% of the appraised value or more. That's what you want. Whatever the standard is for non.
You're required to go underground. I think that's fair enough.
Okay.
I just don't want to.
So that's a catch-all, but it gives a little bit more.
Okay. What about for new homes? New homes.
All new homes.
All new homes, or new homes in previously developed areas?
Well, I think we need to be very careful about just saying all new homes, because you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. It's going to be passed right on.
So I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
We already require it.
Exactly. If someone comes to us in pretty much a large or medium scale development, it's already required. It's already required. The purpose of this is to meet the gap where, like Steve was saying, the scatter lots, the small lots where they're doing maybe 4 or 5 homes.
Let me suggest this. I think that maybe staff could look at the existing code on larger developments, and if it's covered under large developments, do you want to cover any other new homes? Is that what you want to do? Assuming you're not talking about, assuming the millions and millions of dollars requirement is already in the code because it applies to new developments. Do you want to cover everything else? Is that what you're trying to do?
I think so.
Yes.
I think so.
That's my perspective.
Okay.
I think so.
And then, Sherry, could you check the existing code for larger scale development, but it's all over.
Let me
just ask another question.
Mr. Hodge, council members, actually for new subdivisions, they are even required to have the distribution system underground. So it is for sure existing.
Right. Yeah. We're just going to check it and make sure that we're not creating a huge burden, or the council knows that the burden's already there. The burden's already there.
Very good.
Okay. So 50%. Okay. So let's see what we're not covering. Okay, this also is this also deals with multifamily or mixed use.
Yes.
Want to cover it?
Correct.
So there's no distinction.
Correct.
Okay, and the issue of the infill lots is really not critical. It's not really critical to you. It's wherever the new home is being built, provided the big ones are already covered. You don't really care whether it's an infill lot or it's a single home out in a new home on the prairie. You don't care if it's just a single home.
Correct.
Do we have this? You think we have this?
Yes, sir, we do, but we have to recognize outside of city limits, we can't.
No, I'm just talking about home on the prairie and Homestead.
You know all those homes and prairies.
Redwood Reef, you've got street signs and streets and no houses.
Okay. I think we're clear. We'll talk about this.
Mr. Hodge, council members, it's also our intention to mirror what will be a code and the electric department procedures and policies to be implemented outside the city limits. The code doesn't apply outside the city limits, but standards and procedures do apply outside city limits. So whatever we do here will be mirroring the policy.
Excellent. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, item B, we have first and second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any business for the COW, Ms. Bell?
No.
Mr. Carge?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Well, Ms. Bell moved her item so quickly, I want to go back to Parks and Rec for a minute, the Harris Field question.
Timeline, please. Timeline, please.
Yeah, well, not only timeline, but recognizing that January and February are the high-intensive uses at the barn, and we need to to try to work I guess the day after the rodeo dance, construction there in the pavilion needs to start so that it will be ready for the following year. I mean, we're coming up with these timelines with next year's elections being not held in the Senior Citizen Center because of that renovation, and we're Kirk and I are working to go find alternative voting sites, and I think we've got some of those use issues at Harris Field.
The construction schedule will be laid out accordingly, so we will not interfere with those dates. We're going to work around those.
But I don't know if you did here tonight, and if you didn't, maybe at council we can talk about some of the additional items that are going to be done over there, rather than just saying we're going to have an $800,000 bathroom.
Yes, we did add some additional work, which included painting of the pavilion, redoing the stage. The termites have basically ate up that stage, so we're going to redo the stage to a nice concrete finish. We're including a perimeter fencing, picket-type fencing, to have a controlled environment there. And that ticket alone is about a $130,000 item, the fencing by itself, so it's much more than just restroom facilities.
Well, we need to get that message out that we're not building out. I guess the cost of the new City Hall grew from $20 to $27 million at the stroke of someone's letter to the editor. You know, I want to hear about the $800,000 four-hole bathroom next time.
And we know that person's accurate.
Can we get an update on some of the signalization we talked about months ago? I did have an opportunity to talk to chairman of the county commission about our delay in getting signalization Homestead. You know, the left turn signal there on 15th and Chrome, and we really need to look at lighting on 4th and Chrome. And 4th Street and Chrome.
Yes, I talked to Mr. Julio last week on that, and he said they were going to be meeting this week, and he will add that particular intersection to the list.
No, I mean, because I stayed there 15 minutes the other day.
Yeah, it takes 15 to 20 minutes to cross now. What you have to do, you have to turn by the hotel and then go up and then make a right-hand turn.
And on that note, we're starting to see real issues at 15th Street and Old Dixie and U.S. with that busway.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Yeah, I think 20 minutes trying to cross U.S. one day says it's a can't turn issue.
If I may, they're putting in new transportation priorities starting this week. There have been conversations with Scott Kennedy and the CRA and the busway and the engineers for the busway over doing some corrections there, because there were significant problems, and that's going to be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Garner?
Just one thing on this Pronto Cash. We talked about the flyers they were inserting in the drive-through for the people who are paying there. Can we make sure we add this so they know there's another location they could pay at instead?
Ms. Garner, it's already in there, and the flyers are going to start going out tomorrow.
Nice. Thank you.
Mr. Porter, any business?
No business, Mayor.
Mr. Manager?
Nothing, Mayor.
Mr. Weiss? Thank you all very much for coming. Meeting is adjourned. Bye.